Welcome back, Defenders. We're going to start with my favorite story. God help me. Kamchatka residents recount massive 8.8 magnitude earthquake. 2 days ago in Russia's Far East, this was the 6th strongest earthquake ever recorded. Here's the list on Wikipedia, and the number 1 was in Chile in 1960, and sure enough, tied for 6th at 8.8. This was Kamchatka, Russia, 2 days ago. How it works with the Richter scale is it's logarithmic, so an 8.8 is 10 times more shaking than a 7.8, 100 times more shaking than a 6.8, 1,000 times more strong than a 5.8. So an 8.8 is pretty big. The Earth's crust can't really handle bigger than this. Earthquake and tsunami strike near Russia's nuclear submarine base. A massive earthquake just hit Russia's only nuclear submarine base in the Pacific Ocean. This is where it's located. This is Kamchatka. Over here is Alaska. There was a tsunami warning for Japan and Hawaii, but thankfully it wasn't that severe. Kamchatka got nailed, but no other country did really. If you want to experience what an 8.8 earthquake feels like, these are residents in Kamchatka, and just look at how much their cars are shaking.
10. Офигеть!
Earthquakes don't kill people. Collapsing buildings and tsunamis kill people. So if you're just standing outside, it's going to feel weird, but you're not at risk. Here's what the storm surge looked like, or the tsunami. Yes, the harbor. This is probably about 100,000 people live in this area of Kamchatka. And it did flood. So the tide came in, destroyed a lot of buildings, swept everything out. I'm not really hearing what the casualty reports are, so I hope civilians were able to get to safety. And we can actually zoom in and I can show you what this submarine base looks like. So here is the basically the subduction zone. One plate is going underneath another. And the residential areas of Kamchatka were basically protected because there's this natural harbor. The Soviets, I think, were pretty smart to build their submarine base inside the harbor, but then it's even around kind of like another corner, so there's like a harbor within a harbor. But you can zoom in, and this is Google satellite images. You can see Russia's submarines. What did they have in the harbor at the time of the earthquake? And this satellite image is about from 2 weeks ago. You can see Oscar II class submarines, Akula, Borai, and Delta. And what was the damage? We don't really know. I don't think the Russians are going to tell us, and I don't think any of the soldiers at this naval base are going to post pictures and videos on social media. So if something bad happened to any of these submarines, I think the intelligence will be leaked probably in the next week or so. Beyond that, volcanic eruptions. When plate subduction accelerates, this usually kicks off some volcanoes. This is the tallest volcano in all of Eurasia. It's on the Kamchatka Peninsula, and it's sort of erupting. This isn't Krakatoa, but yeah, the Earth isn't happy with Russia. That's my takeaway from this. The other top story, Trump says Russia has until August 8th to make peace with Ukraine or face sanctions. So we officially have a date. August 8th, Taco Trump says he's going to do something. So this is in about a week. Kremlin says Russia-US diplomatic talks going nowhere fast. According to the Institute for the Study of War, Putin allies dismiss Trump tariff threats, vow to continue the Ukraine war. So the Russians are just ignoring Trump. They don't actually believe he'll do anything. And even if he does something, they don't really see that as being much different than what Joe Biden and the European Union have been doing. No other option. Russian state media article demands no Ukrainians be left alive. This is Russia's answer. Anytime you try to threaten or apply pressure to the Russians, they don't care. They're not going to stop. Their goal is genocide. Their goal for 3.5 years has always been cultural genocide. They wanted to erase the ethnic identity of Ukrainians and turn them into Russians. But if they refuse to be Russians, this is their final answer. There is no other option. No one should remain alive in Ukraine. Every man, woman, and child who doesn't want to be Russian on the territory of Ukraine, Russia's just going to kill them all. That's the textbook definition of genocide. If you support Russia, you're just openly supporting genocide. This is Russian state media. They're not hiding it. So what is Trump going to do? Trump hits India with 25% tariffs as patience with Putin wears thin. This is where things are going to get stupid. And come August 8th, Russia's not going to do anything different. Donald Trump is going to make some noise. He wants attention on himself. But this doesn't actually do anything. Here's what he says. Remember, while India is our friend, we have over the years done relatively little business with them because their tariffs are far too high, among the highest in the world, and they have the most strenuous and obnoxious non-monetary trade barriers of any country. This isn't about India's tariffs on the rest of the world. This is supposed to be about genocide. This is supposed to be about Ukraine. So he can't help himself. Like, his brain is mush, he's an idiot, and he is going to use the war in Ukraine as an excuse to carry on these trade wars with other large countries. If this is all Trump is going to do on August 8th, this is stupid. The United States imports about $87 billion worth of goods from India. What do we import? Electronics, pharmaceuticals. Pearls and precious stones make up $11 billion. So in response to Russia's war against Ukraine, American taxpayers are going to have to pay more, 25% more, for their pearls and precious stones from India. How does this make sense? He's just raising taxes on Americans who buy goods from India. Sure, there's an economic incentive. There could be more, but I'm not impressed if this is all Trump is going to do on August 8th. Beyond that, Trump just wants to fight with other BRICS countries. Trump unleashes economic war on Brazil to cripple Russia's anti-Western BRICS alliance. If this had anything to do with Russia and Ukraine, I would support it. But it doesn't. Trump signs order imposing 50% tariff on Brazil and copper products. Why is Trump putting all these tariffs on Brazil? And here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio explaining it. President Trump and the U.S. Treasury have sanctioned Brazilian Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes under the Global Magnitsky Sanctions Program for serious human rights abuses. Let this be a warning to those who would trample on the fundamental rights of their countrymen. Judicial robes cannot protect you. What's happening here is Trump and MAGA like the former Brazilian president, Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro lost a democratic election, then encouraged his supporters to support a coup. Like, the parliament of Brazil was destroyed. Protesters stormed the building and trashed the place. He supported it. It's basically the same thing Trump did on January 6th. So MAGA is trying to threaten and punish the Supreme Court Justice of Brazil for holding the former president of Brazil accountable for crimes. And they're calling this a human rights abuse. And they're using the Global Magnitsky Act to sanction him. This is insane, guys. This is insane. The Magnitsky Act was passed in 2012 in response to a man, Magnitsky, being tortured to death in a Russian jail for trying to expose corruption in Russia. This has to do with William Browder. He's written several books about it. If you want to pick up any of Bill Browder's books, I highly recommend them. He's been working for 15 years, basically, to expose the corruption and human rights abuses of Russia. So Trump and Marco Rubio today are not using the Global Magnitsky Act to punish Russians, or even the Chinese. They're going after the Supreme Court Justice of Brazil for prosecuting their political ally in Brazil. What's Bill Browder's reaction? I spent years fighting for the Magnitsky Act to be passed to end impunity against gross human rights abusers and kleptocrats. As far as I'm aware, Brazilian Judge Moraes doesn't fall into either of these categories. This is just disappointing, guys, but this is the dance we're going to have to play for the next month. I'm sorry. That was the bad news. What's the good news? Republicans develop plan to allow Europeans to buy weapons for Ukraine. Ukraine approves large-scale agreements for U.S. weapons shipments, according to President Zelensky. So there's no restrictions on what Europeans want to buy from U.S. inventory to give to Ukraine. And I do believe the Europeans are using frozen Russian assets to buy these American weapons that are going to Ukraine. They're going to help defeat the Russians. So this is the logjam after 6 months that is finally being cleared. Ukraine is getting weapons and relief on the battlefield. That's the good news. There's also this. Trump signals Ukrainians who fled invasion may stay in the United States until the war is over. So I think about a little over 200,000 Ukrainian refugees relocated to the United States, and they've been here, I think, almost 3.5 years. And Trump did verbally confirm he's not going to deport these people. People who came here as refugees from Ukraine, they're going to keep their protected status until the war is over. The United States is not going to deport these people. That's like the bare minimum he could do to be decent, but he is doing it. Beyond that, Trump is just going to fight with people and try and get attention. Trump to Medvedev, watch your words, failed president. Warns Russia is entering dangerous territory. So Medvedev is the hothead on social media. Putin doesn't tweet. And Medvedev 2 days ago was critical of Trump. Somebody must have showed Trump this tweet, and this is his response. I don't care what India does with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together for all I care. We have done very little business with India. Their tariffs are too high, among the highest in the world. Likewise, Russia and the USA do almost no business together. Let's keep it that way? I think the aluminum deal has been canceled. And tell Medvedev, the failed former president of Russia, who thinks he's still president, to watch his words. He's entering very dangerous territory. This tweet is childish and stupid, but it does serve a purpose. Donald Trump is basically communicating to all of his MAGA influencers, stop repeating Kremlin propaganda. We might actually have to get tough on the Russians in the near term to make them stop this war. I don't think these tariffs on India, if that's all Trump does on August 8th, will do anything. The war is going to continue. But what happens in 2 or 3 months when Trump is still getting these questions? Why aren't you actually sanctioning Russia? Why aren't you actually placing tariffs on Russia to make them come to the peace table? But this is just going to be a nightmare on social media for right-wing people because they now have to fight with each other. Here's Alexander Dugin. Trump has destroyed the very possibility of good relations with the best, the good and even the bad. Only the worst are now following him. Because Trump is getting tough on Russia. For anyone who still supports Trump over Russia, those are now the worst people, according to Alexander Dugin. So yes, I think people who are pro-Russian and pro-Trump are going to be fighting with each other. And in my opinion, that's a good thing. We want that. In the meantime, Europe and Ukraine, you've got to win this war. This is what the Russians did 2 nights ago, 317 drones and missiles, mostly targeting the capital city of Kyiv. 15 killed, record number of children injured in Russia's massive attack on Kyiv. They blew up another apartment building. This was somebody's home. 6 killed, including a 6-year-old boy. 52 people injured, including 9 children. Here's a report from United 24 in front of the destroyed apartment building.
Here behind me is the consequence of a Russian cruise missile attack. There are 52 injured, 9 of them children, and 6 confirmed dead. Just recently, we witnessed the body of a woman being pulled out of the rubble. She was still in her pajamas. Actually, it's very eerie on site. It's quite silent, and we can just hear power tools behind us as people desperately try to get their loved ones out of the rubble. There are family members standing around anxiously waiting, and you can see people's personal belongings all over the floor. It's a devastating sight. Calendars, notebooks, paintings. These are people's homes.
The Russians are never going to distinguish between civilians and military. When you don't care what you hit, then you never miss. The Russians deliberately targeted this apartment building, and they wanted to kill these people. And Ukraine is going to get their revenge. Ukraine is very close to creating its own ballistics. This is according to Ukraine's new defense minister. An advisor to the head of Ukraine's presidential office said earlier that its range could reach up to 700 kilometers. For the last 2 years, Ukraine has been working on developing their own ballistic missiles and cruise missiles. They're getting assistance from Western governments, Western militaries, and they're close to having operational ballistic missiles that can go up to 700 kilometers. We don't need Taurus, we don't need ATACMS. Ukraine is going to produce these domestically. I don't know how many they can make a month, but it's probably going to be dozens, with the objective of destroying every Russian military target within 700 kilometers. It's a lot harder to shoot down a ballistic missile than a simple drone. Let's follow up on this story. Rada backs Zelensky's Nabu independence U-turn after mass protests. Ukraine's parliament overturns power grab on Nabu and Sapo. This is what democracy looks like. Ukraine's parliament passed an unpopular law last week. People took to the streets and protested, and they changed it. Hopefully for the better. This is what President Zelensky has to say. I want to thank all members of parliament for passing my bill, now officially a law. I have just signed the document. This is a guarantee of the proper, independent functioning of Ukraine's anti-corruption bodies and all law enforcement agencies. It ensures the absence of any external influence or interference, including through regular polygraph checks for all law enforcement personnel who have access to state secrets or have relatives in Russia. This is the right decision. It is important that the state listens to public opinion, that it hears its citizens. Ukraine is a democracy, without a doubt. I don't think we know publicly everything that was going on here. Either way, the independence of these agencies has been restored, so hopefully this issue is resolved for now. Let's also follow up on the airlines. Cyber chaos continues in Russia. Major food retailer and delivery app crash after airline attack. Russian supermarket chain VK Usvil and delivery service Samokat experienced simultaneous outages this week, adding to a growing list of technical disruptions hitting Russian businesses following the cyber attack on Aeroflot. Russia says Aeroflot is recovered from the cyber attack, but dozens more flights are canceled. So there's nothing physically wrong with the planes, and all the crews still exist. So I'm sure what's happening with Aeroflot is there's one guy with a laptop using an Excel spreadsheet to manually coordinate all of these flights and crews and everything that needs to happen. But their corporate IT infrastructure has been destroyed. All of the servers, all of the data, everyone's email accounts, everything has been wiped. After it was stolen, so I think there's going to be some information leaks coming from this hacker group soon, but Russia's airline is in serious trouble. This was a disaster. There's no life without water. Occupied Donetsk residents plead for water amid supply collapse. Things in the occupied territories, this is Berdyansk, Mariupol, the city of Donetsk, they don't have running water. Russia cannot keep the taps full, and social media is being flooded with scenes like this. So in some of the cities like Donetsk, they have water for 4 hours every 2 or 3 days. And this is the color of the water coming out of the tap.
А давайте завтра увидимся. Ломоносова 1.
Запомнил. Как вас проводить до станции?
Нет, спасибо, Аркадий. И давайте все-таки мы же не старые.
Тогда до завтра.
До завтра, Аркадий. На следующий день Аркадий навестил.
This water is not safe to drink, it's not safe to cook with, and I wouldn't even wash clothes if the color of the water was brown. So the residents of the occupied territories, these are originally Ukrainian citizens, they're getting desperate. They filmed this video of children pleading to Vladimir Putin himself to help them, because you need water to not die. And they're not getting sympathy from mainland Russia. This is the Russian Z-blogger 13th. I haven't seen this guy for a while, so I thought he might be dead, but he's alive, and he's upset that people living in the occupied territories are complaining about not having water. This is what he says. Hey everyone. This information war and information influence didn't start today or yesterday. The enemy is trying to destabilize the situation from within to stir up dissatisfaction inside the country. What we're going through now, as a nation, as a people, as a state, we're facing for the first time, because we've never encountered difficulties like this before. Right now, 150,000 people, a part of Donetsk, have been left without power after drones hit substations. Of course, people will start asking, where's the electricity? Where's this? Where's that? Everyone's thinking only about their own problems, while our guys are on the front lines, advancing and dying. One guy turns on the tap and no water comes out, and immediately they start complaining, posting online, and so on. I want you all to wake up and realize, this is war. Look at what's happening around us. The attacks on Sochi, the casualties, the attack on Stavropol Krai. 40 drones hit a factory. Wake up, everybody. Stop sleeping. Brothers. We all need to understand that this is war, and we need to do something and participate. No power? F it. No water? F it. You've still got your arms, your legs, your kids are alive, and well, that's already more than enough. I'm pretty sure your kids will not be alive if you do not have clean drinking water. It's going to get worse. Russians should get ready for more internet blackouts and switch to cash. A Russian lawmaker is urging citizens to adjust to the growing likelihood of widespread internet disruptions by relying on more cash and preparing for reduced access to digital services. This has been a new development the last 2 months, but Russia has been frequently shutting off the internet and cell towers in various parts of Russia. When Ukraine sends drones into Russia, they're using Russian SIM cards in the drones. So Russia believes their counter to this is to shut off cell service and internet in various regions. So this is the number of days with mobile internet disruptions in Russia between May and June. And it's concentrated in the West because this is where Ukrainian drones are flying. And once again, they're using Russian SIM cards in their drones. So this lawmaker is saying, have more cash. Because if you don't have cell service and you don't have access to your banking app, how do you pay for stuff? Russia has also blocked access to speedtest.net, a popular internet speed testing service. Russian authorities claim the site negatively influences Russians and accuses its developers of ties to US intelligence. So Russians are checking their internet speeds and then becoming sad because they have slow internet in Russia. Russian banks report deposit outflows amid falling rates and freeze fears. The largest withdrawals were recorded at Alfa Bank, Russia's biggest private lender with roughly 30 million clients, which saw a 3.9% decline in retail deposits, equivalent to about $1.5 billion. We just had a Russian lawmaker say, carry cash, because your phone and digital payments might stop working. Okay, those are connected. Russia weighs food price controls amid rising inflation. The Russian government is considering sweeping new regulations to cap prices on a range of essential food items in a bid to rein in inflation driven by rising production costs. This is a good thing. I hope the Russian government does institute price controls, because when you have price controls, you have shortages. People start panic buying, and corporations can't keep up with demand, and they're operating at a loss, so this leads to empty grocery stores. This is how the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, and Russia is walking down the exact same path. One piece of good news today, the German government approved a budget for 2026 and included $9.6 billion for Ukraine. That's a lot of money. Thank you so much to the Germans, especially the last 6 months. You guys have been fantastic. Here's an update on our channel fundraiser, Save the Donkeys, and we are about to go over $1 million. If you haven't kicked in yet and you want to, now's a good time. You could help us go over that 1 million. And let me share with you another unit video. These are the guys of the Azov 12th Brigade National Guard requesting a truck from our channel fundraiser.
Greetings. We, the fighters of the Unmanned Systems Battalion of the 12th Special Forces Brigade Azov, are reaching out to Jake Bro and the Help 99 Foundation for assistance.
Specifically, we need a pickup truck to carry out combat, reconnaissance, and evacuation missions more efficiently. Our unit has a proven track record in combat, and with much work still ahead, your support would be invaluable. Thank you. Слава Україні! Героям слава!
These guys nailed that video. They looked good, they sounded good. Well done. Actually, let's hit refresh and see if by chance we're already there. It's at 99. We just hit $1 million, guys. 10,506 individual donors. Thank you to every hero who chipped in. On top of that, if you're just part of this YouTube community, you're incredible. If you watch my videos, if you like, comment, share, subscribe, you're part of this community, and we're making a real impact on this war. The 140 trucks already delivered, another 40 coming, in addition to all the drones and special equipment that we've purchased. It's saving lives and beating back the invaders. Final video I want to share with you is once again President Zelensky. He visited a medical rehabilitation center, visiting wounded defenders recovering in the hospital. And I just want to show you what these facilities look like and what these heroes are receiving after they receive their wounds on the battlefield.
Маємо майданчик для занять спортивних. Використовуємо в повсякденному житті. Залу ерготерапії на даний момент.
Паралімпієць, життя змінилося.
Ви молодець.
Дякую велике.
Дякую вам. Бажаю здоров'я, хлопці. Сидіть, будь ласка. Бажаю здоров'я. Дуже приємно. Сідайте, будь ласка. Хлопці, дякую вам за службу.
Молодшого сержанта.
Дякую вам за службу.
Дякую. Старшого солдата.
Вадим, вітаю вас. Дякую вам за службу.
Служу українському народу.
Дякую.
Дійсно, в цьому залі можна і пасивну, і активну реабілітацію. Ослаблення роботоляза є відповідна методика, на виборі заміняють проведення терапевтичного провантаження, звичайно, статичне, звичайно.
Хочу вам подякувати.
Афанасьєву Олену Сергіївну, сестру медичну.
Вітаю вас.
Криворчук Наталію Григорівну, клінічного психолога.
Вітаю, Наталія.
З менш рухливих.
3. Хорош.
А Саня її
А
молодша
Саня,
сестра. Да, і вона робить
А.
все за Барсу. Якщо Барса робить, то і Саня зробить.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Дякую. Дякую.
That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.